Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. Even light behaves differently in this silent world. On Earth, light scatters through air, softening shadows, blending edges. On the Moon, there is no such scattering. Shadows are razor sharp. The line between light and dark is a boundary you could almost touch. Step into shadow and the temperature can plummet instantly. Step into light and the heat becomes intense. The vacuum does not cushion or blur, it reveals. And yet, for all this darkness, moonlight feels soft. That is the strange contradiction. The moon, in full sunlight, is bright and unforgiving. But from Earth, under our own veil of atmosphere, it glows like a dream. What we see is not the moon itself, but the softened reflection of sunlight filtered through air, memory and emotion. And still, the moon has no sky, no clouds, blue above. When standing on its surface, you would see stars even in daytime. You would see Earth suspended, not rising or setting, but hovering in a fixed position in the sky. Because of the moon's synchronous rotation, Earth would hang there, alive, glowing, spinning, while all around you, silence pressed in like velvet. It's easy to forget, with our busy days and glowing screens, that the moon watches Earth always. Not as a camera, not as a witness, but as a quiet partner. It sees our storms, our seasons, our dances of light and shadow. It sees war and peace, it sees forests regrow. And it does all this without judgment, without change. It simply reflects what is, and holds that reflection in silence. This quality, the moon's stillness in the face of movement, has long inspired spiritual thought. In many traditions, the moon represents the unconscious, the hidden, the reflective. Where the sun is seen as active and direct, the moon is passive and inward. It is the soft mirror of the soul, not shouting truths, but waiting for you to find them. In the moon's cycles, people have seen mirrors of their own lives, waxing and waning, growing and releasing, appearing and disappearing, always returning, and always within these cycles, silence. Not as an absence, but as a rhythm, a silence that speaks of rest, of gestation, of contemplation. But the moon is not only personal, it's also political, scientific, technological. It has become a stepping stone for dreams of space travel, a site of national pride, a testing ground for human endurance. And yet every mission that goes there must contend with its silence. Communications rely on radio, not voice. Tools must work in vacuum. Spacesuits must insulate against extremes not softened by atmosphere. The moon forces precision, patience, calm. It will not help or hinder, it will only wait. And in that waiting, it changes the humans who touch it. It strips away noise, ego, even gravity itself. It asks you to come humbly, and it offers you the gift of perspective. This perspective changes things. Looking at Earth from the moon is not like seeing it from a plane or a mountaintop. It is to see the whole thing, fragile, spinning, alive, a single orb in an ocean of black. From there, borders disappear, noise disappears. Even the concepts of here and there dissolve. What remains is wholeness, And perhaps that is the moon's quiet offering to remind us that wholeness exists, not despite silence, but because of it. That in stillness we find the shape of things. And so, in every photograph of the moon, in every telescope's gaze, in every soft moonbeam on a sleeping child's pillow, there is a message, not loud, not urgent, but enduring. It tells us to slow down, to listen with more than ears, to let silence be not the absence of something, but the presence of everything we didn't know we were missing. The moon, in all its hollow silence, is not empty. It is full of time, of history, of motion and meaning, and though it may never speak, it invites us to hear what has always been echoing inside. Now, let us move gently toward the closing echoes of this moonlit silence, where all things end, not with noise, but with presence. The hollow stillness of the moon isn't just an absence. It is a container, a vessel of things forgotten or never spoken at all. It holds not only the scars of its creation, but the quiet of everything that followed. No wind has ever swept across its surface. No rain has softened its contours. There are no rivers to smooth stone, no sounds to mask thought. On the moon, every shape remains sharp, every memory unmoved. It is not haunted by the past, it is the past, preserved. And because of this, its silence is heavy with meaning. There is nothing to drown out your thoughts, no background to blend into. It's as if the moon invites you to listen not to it, but to yourself. That self-reflection is what the moon has offered humans for millennia. When we look up at it, we are not just looking outward. We are also looking inward, seeing a reflection of our own stillness. Because no matter how busy life becomes, no matter how loud the world grows, the moon does not respond in kind. It does not change its pace, its orbit, its glow. It remains circling quietly, watching calmly. This constancy, paired with its silence, gives the moon a kind of trustworthiness. It will always be there. Even if the sky is cloudy or the night too bright, we know the moon is still above. It does not demand attention, it simply is. And in a world that often asks us to be louder, faster, more visible, the moon whispers a different kind of lesson. To be still is also to be strong. Some cultures believe the moon was hollow not only in sound but in body, speculating that its thin crust and strange echoes pointed to an empty core. Modern science doesn't confirm that, but the idea lingers. That hollowness suggests more than structure. It implies mystery, the kind of mystery that doesn't insist on being solved, the kind that allows itself to simply be wondered about. And perhaps that's why the idea won't go away, because we need places that hold questions without needing answers. We need spaces where wonder lives longer than certainty. The moon, with its unreachable surface and unspoken silence, offers such a place. It is the quiet that holds the unsolved. When you sit in a quiet room and the silence becomes too loud, it is often not the absence of sound that makes you uncomfortable. It is the presence of your own thoughts. The moon magnifies this feeling. Were you to stand on its surface, far from home, surrounded by darkness and light, you might feel more yourself than ever before, not because you are alone, but because nothing is covering you. No sound, no distraction, no barrier. The silence of the moon doesn't isolate, it reveals. It allows everything that you are to rise to the surface. And that kind of clarity is rare. It can be uncomfortable, but it is honest. Scientists continue to explore this celestial companion, sending probes, orbiters, and soon perhaps people once again They scan its surface, drill its crust, map its gravity fields. They try to read the layers of rock like pages in a story. And what they find are patterns, ripples in dust, fractures in stone, echoes of ancient impacts. The moon does not hide its past. It does not rewrite its history. It wears every crater with dignity. And that too is a lesson. That silence is not forgetting. It is remembering without noise. It is keeping without shouting. The moon is not mute. It is just deep. And in that depth lies something timeless. When the moon is high in the sky, when its pale light touches rooftops and treetops and rivers, it connects us to all who have come before, to the first eyes that ever looked upward and wondered, to the children who reached out and asked what it was, to the poets who gave it names, to the scientists who chased its secrets. That same moon touched all their lives. Its silence stretched across their nights as it does ours, and it will do so again, long after we are gone. Because the moon does not measure time in hours or years. It counts in shadows, in cycles, in the turning of tides and the settling of dust. There is a comfort in this, knowing that something endures, something that does not speak and yet speaks to everyone, something that does not move quickly and yet keeps the rhythm of the seas. The moon is not here to entertain or inform. It is here to reflect, to hold, to remind, to witness. And when the noise of life grows too loud, when the world feels too fast, the moon remains in the sky like a whisper, a hollow golden whisper that says, "Slow down, listen, not with your ears, but with your breath, your heart, your stillness," because the truth is, we all carry silence within us. Beneath our words, beneath our actions, there is a quiet core. The moon helps us remember it, helps us return to it. In its hollow silence, we hear not emptiness, but space. Room to breathe, room to think, room to feel, and maybe, just maybe, room to be whole. So the next time you look up and see that glowing arc above the trees or rooftops or desert, let it speak to you in the only language it knows. Let it say nothing and everything. Let it be what it has always been, a vessel of stillness, a cradle of quiet, a moon hollow in sound but full of meaning. And in its silence find your own. Before there were clocks, calendars, or numbered days, there was the moon. Floating in the sky, slow and deliberate, it marked time with light and shadow. It did not count seconds or minutes. It did not ring alarms or blink digits. Instead, it waxed and waned, pulsing with a rhythm both ancient and alive. The first humans looked up and saw the moon change shape, not randomly, but with purpose. A sliver became a half, then full, then returned again to nothing. And from that cycle they learned to measure time. Months were born from moons. Stories of beginnings and endings wove around its glow. The moon became not just a light in the night sky, but a keeper of rhythm, a quiet metronome for the world below. Its orbit around Earth takes about 27.3 days, but because Earth is moving, we see a full cycle every 29.5 days. This rhythm creates the lunar month, and it's no coincidence that so many human calendars are built around it. In many ancient societies, the new moon signalled the start of a new month. Festivals bloomed with full moons. Planting and harvesting followed its phases. Even now, long after the invention of digital clocks and atomic time, farmers still look to the moon. Its pull on time is soft but enduring, like the tug of a slow tide across generations. But time is not the moon's only dance. The same gravitational bond that binds it to Earth also binds it to our oceans. The moon pulls on the sea, drawing it upward slightly. This bulge in the water doesn't stay still. It moves with Earth's rotation, creating the tides. Each day as Earth turns beneath the moon's pull, coastlines rise and fall. High tide, low tide, again and again. The cycle is so steady that you can set your watch to it. And yet it does not feel mechanical, it feels alive. The moon stirs the oceans like a spoon in a vast bowl. It whispers to the sea, and the sea responds with motion. And just as the moon guides water, it guides life. Many creatures are tuned to the tides. Crabs scuttle to the rhythm. Fish spawn by moonlight. Coral release their eggs into the sea on nights when the moon is just so. Even birds migrate under the silver glow. It is as if the moon is not just a satellite but a conductor. And the world, a great orchestra, responds. The moon's gravitational pull reaches farther than we imagine. Not only the ocean responds, lakes, crusts of land, even the air is moved ever so slightly. You cannot feel it, not directly, but your body, a collection of water, salt and rhythm, knows. Some researchers believe the moon's cycles may affect sleep, behaviour, even emotional tides. The science is still unfolding, but the possibility lingers like mist. That we too are pulled not only by gravity, but by light, by timing, by something softer. If you've ever sat by the ocean during a full moon, you may have felt it. That strange sense that everything is bigger. The tide is higher, the night is brighter, and even your breath seems deeper. The moon's gravitational pull and its reflected light combine to create a world that feels both ancient and renewed. Full moons are known to bring spring tides, higher highs and lower lows. The ocean stretches more, drawn by the alignment of moon, earth, and sun. These are the moments when the sea seems to speak in a louder voice. And perhaps it's not just the sea. Humans too have long felt something stir under a full moon. Myths of transformation, of lunacy, of mystery, all bloom beneath its glow. The word lunatic itself traces back to Luna, the Roman goddess of the moon. But not all of the moon's control is dramatic. Much of it is quiet, subtle, like the slowing of Earth's rotation. Yes, the moon is doing that too. Very gradually its gravitational tug creates friction within Earth's tides, which over millions of years has slowed our spin. A long time ago Earth's day was only 10 hours, now it's 24, and in the future it will grow even longer. The moon is slowing our dance, one tide at a time, and as it does, it drifts farther away, about 3.8 centimeters each year. A tiny step, but one that adds up. The moon is not just a keeper of time, it is a shaper of time. It changes the pace of the planet. And the moon itself has rhythms too, its phases, its rise and set, its eclipses. A lunar eclipse occurs when Earth slips directly between the moon and the sun, casting a shadow. In that moment the moon darkens, sometimes glowing red from sunlight bent through Earth's atmosphere. These blood moons are not omens, but alignments, cosmic geometries that reveal how closely tied the sun, Earth, and moon really are. Each eclipse is a reminder that time is not linear. It is circular, it repeats, it turns like the moon. And in that turning there is both mystery and comfort. The moon also affects internal human cycles in ways still being studied. The menstrual cycle, averaging close to 29.5 days, mirrors the lunar month. In cultures long past, women gathered during new moons or full moons, sharing stories, rituals, knowledge. The moon became a symbol of femininity, of rhythm, of renewal. Some people today still sleep more restlessly during full moons, others dream more vividly. While science continues to explore these patterns, the moon's influence, subtle as it may be, is undeniable. It's not a cause in the loud sense, but perhaps a companion, a kind of silent partner in the rhythm of being alive, and even our modern world cannot escape the moon's influence. Space travel must calculate its gravity. Satellites adjust their paths by it. Power grids, sensitive to shifts in tide, keep watch on lunar calendars. Fishermen use tide charts aligned with moonrise. Gardeners plant by moonlight. The moon, ancient and unchanging, still moves our present, still writes itself into the blueprints of daily life. Its presence is soft, but its touch is everywhere. You may not notice it pulling, you may not feel the tide inside your own body, but the moon is there, always tugging, always measuring, always reminding. So when you see it next, whether a silver sliver at dusk or a golden orb rising heavy from the horizon, pause, feel its rhythm, not as a distant object but as a participant in your own cycles. Because the moon is not just out there orbiting Earth, it is in your breath, in your sleep, in your sense of time. It is in the rise and fall of waves, of thoughts, of moments. The moon does not speak, but it moves everything, including you. Let's drift deeper into the ocean of time shaped by the moon, into the places where tides meet memory and gravity holds hands with rhythm. It may be invisible, this pull between Earth and moon, but its effects are everywhere. Consider the tide not just as water rising and falling, but as a breath, a slow inhale and exhale of the planet itself. The moon asks, and the sea answers. And through this exchange, Earth becomes more than a rock in space. It becomes alive with motion. Twice each day the waters respond, pulled first toward the moon, then released back. But the moon doesn't pull in one direction only. It tugs on both sides of Earth, pulling the ocean toward it, and creating another bulge on the opposite side as inertia stretches water away. This dual motion wraps the planet in liquid symmetry, and in between the bulges are places of rest, low tide, where the shore breathes out and reveals the wet sands below. But these aren't just physical movements, they shape life itself. Whole ecosystems are timed to the moon's whisper. On coral reefs, entire colonies release eggs and sperm into the sea during certain phases of the moon, all at once, creating floating clouds of new beginnings. Horseshoe crabs come ashore to mate under the light of the full moon, their ancient shells gleaming in the moonlight as waves wrap around them. Birds fly at night, guided by the moon's glow, using it like a compass carved in light. In the Arctic, certain animals time their breeding to lunar cues, knowing that the tides will help carry food or bring safety to their young. These patterns are not taught, they are remembered, written into biology like moonlight etched into bone. And what about humans? We live surrounded by clocks now, divided by time zones, obsessed with deadlines and alarms. But long before all of this, the moon was our guide. For some cultures, the moon is still central. The Islamic calendar is lunar, beginning each month with the first visible crescent. Jewish holidays align with full moons. Traditional Chinese festivals bloom on lunar dates, such as the Mid-Autumn Festival, where people share stories under glowing skies. Even the Christian Easter moves with the moon, falling on the first Sunday after the full moon following the spring equinox. So much of our sacred time is carved not in stone or metal, but in moonlight. Yet not everything the moon does is gentle. During certain times when the sun, moon and earth align in a straight line, we experience spring tides, not because of the season, but because the tides spring higher. These can flood coastlines, challenge harbours, reshape beaches, and during perigee, when the moon is closest to Earth, these tides grow even stronger. Scientists track these interactions carefully, not out of fear, but respect. The moon does not mean to disrupt, it means only to pull. But sometimes even gentle pulls become powerful over time. That is the nature of gravity. It does not ask permission, it simply exists. Eclipses are another reminder of how deeply connected we are to lunar time. A solar eclipse, when the moon passes between Earth and the Sun, is a brief moment when the moon's shadow sweeps across the planet like a soft hush. For a few minutes, day becomes twilight. Birds go quiet. People gather and look up, and in that looking, time pauses. A lunar eclipse, on the other hand, casts Earth's shadow onto the moon, and the moon, usually so bright and constant, turns red, as if blushing from Earth's gaze. These celestial events are rare and precise, and they stitch us into a cosmic rhythm far beyond our calendars and clocks. They remind us that time is not a line but a loop, a dance of light and shadow repeated endlessly above. Imagine how ancient civilizations must have watched it. Before electricity, before glowing screens, people lived under a sky that truly darkened. The full moon would rise, massive and golden, and entire villages would stay awake by its light. Stories would be told, songs would be sung, paths through the forest became walkable again, and during the new moon, when darkness reigned, there was rest, reflection, silence. These patterns shaped culture. They shaped language. They shaped the rhythm of being human. Even now, when our lights drown out the stars, the moon remains a visible, shifting presence. It keeps time not in seconds, but in silences and shadows. One of the moon's quieter roles is that of a protector. Long ago, in the chaotic days of the early solar system, collisions were common. Earth was bombarded by asteroids and comets, but the presence of the moon changed that. Its gravity serves as a kind of shield, pulling some objects away from Earth's path, altering their trajectories. Even more, the moon's formation, believed to be the result of a massive collision between Earth and a Mars-sized body, may have stabilized our planet's tilt. This tilt gives us seasons, balance, and a relatively mild climate. Without the moon, Earth's axis might wobble chaotically, making life far more difficult. In this way, the moon's silent orbit offers us stability. It is a guardian not through strength but through its quiet presence. And still, the moon records everything. Unlike Earth, the moon has no atmosphere, no wind, no rain. Its surface holds footprints for millennia. Each meteor impact remains etched into its crust. This makes the moon a museum of time, a place where history does not erode. Scientists studying lunar soil called regolith have found tiny glass beads formed by ancient impacts. Some of these beads contain solar particles trapped billions of years ago, preserving the past in silent granules. When astronauts walked on the moon, they disturbed dust that had not moved for ages, and that dust still holds their footprints. In a way, the moon remembers better than Earth. It is a keeper of time not just in cycles, but in scars. Even its brightness changes in ways you wouldn't expect. Have you noticed how the moon looks larger when it's low on the horizon? This is an optical illusion, called the moon illusion. Your brain compares it to objects like trees or buildings, making it appear massive. But high overhead, the moon shrinks again, not in size but in our perception. This strange quirk reminds us that light is both a physical and a psychological experience, that our minds shape what we see just as much as our eyes do. And then there's Earthshine, the gentle glow of the moon's dark side lit faintly by sunlight reflected from Earth itself. It's like a mirror within a mirror, a light bouncing from sun to earth to moon and back again. You can sometimes see it during a crescent phase, a ghostly outline of the full moon cradled in shadow. It is a reminder that even in darkness, there is always some light returning. And then we come to the question of silence. The moon is utterly silent. With no air to carry sound, even the loudest crash would make no noise. Imagine standing there under a black sky with stars unblinking, and Earth a glowing orb in the distance. You could scream and hear nothing. You could drop a rock and feel only vibration. This pants is not empty. It is vast. It holds a kind of gravity of its own. Scientists send seismometers to the moon to listen for moonquakes, tiny tremors deep beneath the surface. These tremors last longer than earthquakes because the moon is dry and rigid. The sound would not travel, but the shaking would echo for minutes. It is a place of motion without sound. And yet when we think of the moon, we often think of quiet, because the quiet is part of its nature. So the next time you glance up and see that pale curve in the sky, remember, it is more than a nightlight. It is a sculptor of tides, a counter of months, a mirror of the sun, a protector of life, a vault of cosmic memory, a stage for shadows, and a companion to every living creature on Earth. It teaches without speaking, it watches without blinking, and its light, though borrowed, becomes something new the moment it touches your skin. Now, imagine the moon not only as a body of rock, but as a silent storyteller, one that doesn't use words or voice, yet still manages to say so much. Its tale is ancient, older than any book, written not in ink but in dust, craters and motion. From the moment it was born, likely torn from Earth in a collision of cosmic violence, it has orbited faithfully, not once abandoning its quiet post. And yet, in all its constancy, it continues to change. This is one of the moon's last secrets. It teaches that change and stillness are not opposites. The same face always turns to us, but that face is scarred anew with each passing age. Meteorites leave fresh imprints. Solar winds alter its surface chemistry. Even now the moon is being shaped, and though its voice is inaudible, it hums in data, in light curves, in gravitational echoes. If you could listen with instruments built for silence, you might hear the sighs of ancient impacts, or the murmurs of lunar dust shifting beneath invisible tremors. It's easy to think of the moon as separate from us, something far and distant, like a decoration hung in the sky. But that's not quite true. The moon is pulling away, slowly. Each year it drifts about 3.8 centimeters farther from Earth. We don't feel this, not day to day. But over millions of years the impact is real. Eclipses will change, tides will soften, nights will darken. The moon is not leaving out of cruelty, it's just obeying the rules of motion. The same laws that keep planets circling stars, that guide comets through their long journeys, that shape galaxies across time. Even the moon's slow farewell is a kind of reminder. that nothing remains exactly where it is, and yet connection still lingers, just as moonlight lingers after the moon sets, just as memory lingers long after a moment has passed. The moon has also changed us in ways we rarely stop to notice. It entered our myths, our dreams, our symbols. It became a canvas for longing. Lovers have spoken to it, wolves have howled at it, poets have worshipped it. Farmers once planted crops by its cycle. Sailors navigated tides by its rhythm. Even now, in our modern age, where cities hum and screens glow, the full moon still draws us to windows. It makes children curious. It makes silence feel holy. And sometimes, it makes us remember things we didn't know we had forgotten, like the coolness of night air on the skin, like the way shadows stretch under a silver sky, like the wonder of something unreachable that still feels close. Astronauts who walked on the moon described a smell, something like burnt gunpowder, clinging to their suits from the lunar dust. They brought back rocks, silent and grey, that had not changed in billions of years. And they brought back something else, perspective. Looking at Earth from the moon, they saw a fragile blue orb wrapped in clouds floating in blackness. No borders, no noise, just one planet alive and whole. The moon became not just a destination but a mirror, a way of seeing home more clearly, and maybe that is part of its gift. By reflecting light, it reflects us. By circling Earth, it reminds us that even what seems alone is always in relationship. We orbit one another, not just in space, but in thought, in wonder, in story. The moon is not a flat object, but a world. It has mountains, valleys, shadows deeper than night. In some of its craters, sunlight has never reached. These eternally dark places may hold water ice, frozen remnants of ancient comets. If humans return, they might drink that water. They might grow food, breathe air made from lunar oxygen. The moon, once thought lifeless and barren, could become a partner in our future. Not just a place to visit, but a place to live. And yet, even then, it will remain mysterious. No matter how many footprints we leave, no matter how many instruments we plant, the moon will keep some secrets, because its beauty is not just in what it tells us, but in what it keeps quiet. Think now of moonrise, that gentle moment when the horizon begins to glow and the silver disk lifts into view. Birds quiet, the wind stills, the world seems to pause for just a breath. In that rising, something stirs in the human spirit. It's not fear or even awe, it's something softer. A feeling that we are not alone, that we are part of something bigger, slower, older than ourselves. The moon rises not with fanfare but with grace. It does not demand our attention, yet we give it freely. Because some part of us remembers that we are stardust too, that the same physics guiding the moon also shapes our blood, our breath, our bones. That light, whether direct or reflected, binds us. And then there are the shadows. Under a full moon, shadows are crisp, sharper than daytime, stretched and silver. But under a crescent they are soft, uncertain, like thoughts before words. Shadows under moonlight do not hide. They reveal. They make you notice things. The curve of a branch, the edge of a wall, the outline of your own hand held up to the glow. In this way, the moon teaches a kind of seeing, not the sharp vision of sunlight, but a gentler noticing. A slower, more patient form of sight. It's the kind of vision that reveals not just shapes but feelings, not just outlines but moods. a way of understanding that does not rush to label but simply receives. And so, as we end this quiet journey into the heart of moonlight, we are left not with answers, but with presence. The moon remains circling, shedding borrowed light, moving oceans, measuring months, holding silence, reflecting Earth. And in all this, she offers not certainty but comfort. The kind of comfort that comes from knowing something is always there, even when hidden. From knowing that even the most distant things can touch us. From feeling that beauty does not need to shout, it can simply glow. So let the moon be your nightlight, your clock, your mirror, your companion. Let it remind you that even reflected light can be radiant, that even the smallest gravitational pull can move oceans, that even silence can hold meaning, and that sometimes the most powerful forces in the universe are also the most gentle. The moon is not what you think. It is not just a rock, not just a light, not just a cycle. It is a whisper of the cosmos, echoing in every shadow and every tide. And though it speaks without words, if you stand still long enough, you might begin to understand what it's been saying all along. There are places so quiet that the silence feels heavy, like a velvet curtain draped across the ears. But the moon, our closest neighbour in space, is quieter still. Its silence is not just the absence of noise, but the absence of everything that carries it. There is no air on the moon, no wind to whistle, no rustling leaves, no echo. Even sound itself cannot travel across its dusty plains. And yet, in that silence, something speaks. Something ancient, vast and strangely familiar. The moon is hollow in sound, but not in story. Its quiet is full of memory, written into craters and frozen into dust. It is the silence of something that has seen so much, and yet never made a sound. If you were to stand on the moon and stamp your foot, there would be no noise, not because nothing happened, but because there's no air to carry the sound waves to your ear. You would feel the vibration through your boot, but the event would exist in silence. The same silence enveloped every impact that formed its countless craters, every comet strike, every rumble from within. In this way, the moon is a museum of quiet catastrophes. It has endured centuries of bombardment without a cry. Every dent, every groove etched into its surface is a scar left behind without a sound. These craters do not speak, but they remember. Imagine now the lunar regolith, the dusty soil that covers the moon's surface. It is made of crushed rock, shattered glass from the impacts, and tiny beads formed by the heat of collisions. This soil is so fine and dry that it clings to everything. It smells like gunpowder to returning astronauts, though no one knows exactly why. The dust has sharp edges, untouched by wind or rain, because there is no weather to wear it smooth. It simply sits, unchanged for millions of years. And in that stillness, that total absence of erosion, lies another secret. The moon is a place where time stands still. Footprints left by astronauts remain perfectly preserved. A single step becomes eternal. A flag once planted does not flutter. It stands motionless, wrapped in silence. But how did this place of silence come to be? To understand, we must go back nearly 4.5 billion years. Earth was young then, and so was the solar system. Chaos reigned. Planets were still forming. One day, a body the size of Mars collided with Earth. The impact was so great it vaporized rock and sent debris hurtling into orbit. Over time, that debris coalesced and formed the moon. It was born in fire and noise, but quickly that noise vanished. The new moon had no atmosphere, no seas, no echo chambers, and so from its very birth, it became a place without sound. It cooled, it hardened, and in doing so it became a recorder of silence. Even the moon's quakes are quiet. Yes, the moon quakes, though differently from Earth. These tremors, caused by tidal forces or thermal expansion, can last much longer than earthquakes. The moon's dry, rigid crust allows vibrations to continue for minutes, echoing within like a ringing bell. Scientists once described this as the moon ringing like a gong when struck by a spacecraft's discarded module. But this ringing is metaphorical. It doesn't create audible sound. It is movement without voice, a vibration without song. The moon's core may be partially molten, but its crust does not transmit sound in ways we understand. Its voice is felt, not heard. Astronomers listen to the moon with seismographs, with infrared sensors, with orbiting satellites. They read its lance like a language. They study the way shadows move across its surface, how temperature changes from blazing heat to freezing cold in a matter of hours. They examine the way light falls into craters, some of which have not seen the sun in billions of years. These are the moon's polar shadows, pits of eternal darkness, where ice may sleep untouched. Imagine that, a place so quiet, so still, so untouched by time that even light has not dared to enter. A place where silence is not empty, but full of frozen stories, waiting. And in that silence there are questions. Why is the moon so dry? Why does it have no magnetic field? Why is its far side so different? Thicker, more cratered, more mysterious? Why do some of its rocks carry magnetic signatures if there is no current magnetism? Scientists puzzle over these things, drawing maps of gravity, studying lunar lava plains, analysing dust samples. But for all their instruments, the moon keeps many of its secrets. It offers hints, but never confessions. Its silence is not just physical, it is also philosophical. It teaches us that not all knowledge must be loud, that understanding can come in stillness, that some truths whisper and others merely stand there waiting for us to listen more carefully. When astronauts first orbited the moon, they looked down at its surface and saw not a lifeless rock, but a world that had cradled every era of Earth's history. The moon has seen Earth's continents shift, its climate change, its civilizations rise and fall, all from afar, all in silence. It has never turned away, never blinked. Its orbit is steady, its motion precise, and yet it does not speak. It reflects light, gravity, time, and in doing so it reflects us. Because perhaps what we see in the moon's silence is not just space, it is space for reflection. A reminder that we too are full of quiet places, that inside each of us, beneath the noise and the motion, there is a hollow silence of our own. The moon teaches that silence is not always the absence of meaning. Sometimes it is the container for it, a space where thoughts can echo, where history can settle, where mystery can live without demand. It is not that the moon has nothing to say, it's that it says it differently, through light without heat, through motion without noise, through memory without words. In its silence we hear the echoes of creation, the passage of eons, and the soft tug of something we can't quite name but feel all the same. So next time you see the moon hanging in the sky, think of it not as distant or mute, but as deeply present. It is not failing to speak, it is simply speaking in the language of stillness. And if you stand long enough in the hush of night, you might begin to hear what silence really sounds like. Let's drift further now into the depths of that quiet, hollow world above us, where silence folds in on itself like a soft cocoon. The moon is not merely a passive satellite, it is a living archive of stillness. And in that stillness there are traces of fire. The moon was not always cold. Long ago its surface bubbled with molten rock. Lava plains, now dark patches we call Maria, spread across the near side like quiet seas. These plains are the moon's oldest whispers, frozen in time. Their smoothness tells of eruptions long past, while their darkness tells of a difference in mineral makeup. Even now scientists study those flows, wondering how long the moon remained geologically active, and whether somewhere beneath that dusty surface a faint heat still lingers. The hollow feeling some have spoken of when seismic waves bounce through the moon and seem to echo is not entirely poetic. When instruments were left behind by the Apollo missions and artificial impacts were triggered, the resulting reverberations lasted for an unusually long time. It was as if the moon rang, but not like a bell made of metal, more like an ancient clay vessel, hollowed and brittle, carrying sound inside its own bones. The cause is in its dryness, its fractured crust, and its rigid interior. There is no water to absorb the motion, no inner softness to quiet the quaking. Instead, tremors travel through those brittle layers, reflecting back and forth. And in doing so, the moon becomes not just a place, but an instrument, silent but resonant. The moon's silence also touches on the boundaries of what we understand about hearing itself. On Earth, silence is relative. Even in the quietest forests, you can hear leaves rustle, insects chirp, air move. But on the moon, there is no wind, no atmosphere to stir even the tiniest pebble. A stone could roll down a slope, and though your eyes might see it, your ears would know nothing. Your mind would try to fill the space with sound out of habit, but the space would resist. It would not offer even a whisper. And in that resistance lies something important. We are creatures shaped by sound, guided by voice and rhythm. To be in a place without it is to feel the edges of your own awareness. The moon teaches what it feels like to hear with your whole body, not through vibration, not through words, but through presence alone. The moon's inner echoes may also hold answers about how it formed. Current theories suggest that long ago, a massive object collided with the young Earth, and the debris from that impact coalesced into the moon. If this is true, then the moon is made from Earth's outer layers. But listening to its interior reveals that it's not exactly like Earth. Its core is smaller. Its materials are slightly different. Its crust is thicker in some places, thinner in others. These differences, heard through seismic echoes, tell of a shared beginning but a different journey. The moon, though born from Earth, has become its own. And then there are the hidden surprises, the magnetic anomalies, the buried mass concentrations beneath certain craters, the lava tubes stretching like veins below the surface. These features do not make sound, but they influence how sound travels. A quake that moves through dense rock behaves differently than one through hollowed tunnels. These changes create distortions in the echoes, and scientists read these distortions like music. They follow the shifts, the soft spots, the sharp edges. In doing so, they map what cannot be seen. It's a kind of sonar archaeology, tuning into the bones of a planet through the rhythm of its breath. There is beauty in this method of knowing, a science not of sight but of feeling, not of images but of waves. It teaches us that sound does not need air, that stories do not need words, that life or something like it can exist in the quiet shifting of rock. The moon does not move like Earth, it does not sing with birds or winds, but it has its own music, slow and deep, a hum that only the careful can hear, a pulse that continues long after the noise is gone. So we keep listening, we place new instruments, we refine our senses, we wait, and in that waiting the moon continues its ancient rhythm, not rushing, not stopping, just turning, pulling, trembling, resting, and beneath every crater, beneath every silent plain, a new echo waits, waiting not to be heard but to be felt, because sometimes the most powerful truths are the ones that ask us to be quiet, to listen, and to feel our way into knowing. Now let us step gently into the final layer of this story, where echoes fade into silence and silence becomes something else entirely. The moon, sleeping beneath its craters and dust, is not dead. It is simply drumming in stone. Every crack, every tremor, every slow pulse through its mantle is a kind of memory. And like all memories, these are not fixed in time. They echo forward, touching the present, inviting us to listen not with ears, but with patience. The moon's stillness is not absence. It is accumulation, a billion years of impacts of solar wind, of drifting dust, have written a quiet poem into its body. And when we study the moon, we are not learning about a distant object. We are learning about the nature of time, of silence, of continuity itself. In recent years, new missions have rekindled our desire to understand this world more deeply. Robotic landers, orbiters, and future plans for lunar bases all point to one truth: we are not finished listening. Instruments are becoming more sensitive. We can now detect smaller tremors, analyze deeper vibrations, and model interior structures with growing clarity. But even as our tools improve, the moon resists full understanding. Some quakes remain unexplained. Some echoes refuse to match our expectations. It is as if the moon holds back just enough to keep the mystery alive. Not to frustrate us, but to remind us that knowing is never complete. That mystery is not a failure of science. It is the invitation that keeps science alive. Among the quietest and most profound mysteries are the so-called mascons, mass concentrations hidden beneath certain lunar basins. These dense regions cause subtle gravitational anomalies, enough to pull satellites off course. How did they form? Why are they so concentrated in some areas and not others? The moon's crust offers only hints. We know they are real because we can feel them through math, through orbit, through pull, but we cannot see them directly. They are whispers within a whisper. And perhaps that's the heart of the moon's lesson, that some truths are not loud. They do not arrive in brightness or flash. They come quietly as a change in path, a tug we cannot explain, a shift we feel before we understand. And yet the moon does not demand to be solved. It has waited for billions of years in stillness. It will wait longer still. If we never solve its secrets, it will not be diminished. Its beauty is not in what we know, but in how it makes us feel as we learn. Standing under a full moon, or watching a thin crescent rise at dawn, something inside us softens. Our breath slows. Our gaze lifts. We feel the shape of something beyond language. a presence, a rhythm, a memory that does not belong to any one of us, but to all of us. It is the kind of knowing that happens not in thought, but in awareness. This awareness of our connection, of our shared gravity, of the gentle forces that shape our world, is the deeper echo of the moon. It is not only reflecting sunlight, it is reflecting us, our questions, our wonder, our need to reach out and feel something ancient and quiet and constant. The moon has always been there, circling above every war and peace, every child born, every tree grown. It has seen the first fire, the first words, the first steps on its own surface, and through it all it has kept its silence, not cold, not uncaring, just deeply, endlessly present. And when we return, when astronauts once again touch the surface, when humans build shelters in its dust, when tools dig deeper into its crust, we will not just be visiting a place, we will be entering a relationship, one built over millennia, one that doesn't speak our language but knows our rhythm. We will walk again on the same ground that holds echoes of every moment before, and if we are quiet enough, we might feel the vibration of that history. We might understand not through analysis, but through standing still. For the moon is not just an object, it is a space in which quiet becomes meaningful, where silence is not empty but layered, a stillness that contains motion, a hush that hums, and the craters, those ancient scars, are not only marks of destruction, they are openings, places where the past has touched the present with force and left behind a shape, a tremble, a story. The moon has never spoken aloud, but it has told us everything in the way it moves, the way it holds its shape, the way it listens to every particle that arrives from beyond. And so the echoes beneath the craters are more than geology. They are reminders that the world does not need to be loud to be alive, that listening is not always about hearing, it is about sensing, waiting, receiving. The moon teaches this not by instruction but by example. It does not push, it does not pull attention, it simply exists, full of rhythm and memory, and allows us the space to notice. And when we do, when we finally pause and lean into that silence, we find something unexpected. Not answers, perhaps, but presence, a shared quiet, a place where time moves slowly enough for us to catch up. The moon does not demand understanding, it invites it. And in accepting that invitation, we don't just learn about the moon, we learn how to be quieter, how to listen better, how to feel the shape of things through their silence. So next time you look up at the moon, whether full or new, whether visible or hiding behind clouds, know that it's still there, echoing, not through sound but through the soft tremble of memory. Beneath every crater, a pulse, beneath every shadow, a history, and in the heart of its silence, a message that waits, endlessly patient, for you to hear. Long before there were continents, before oceans gathered, before even the idea of life took root, there was a moment when the earth was not alone. It began in fire, not the gentle crackling of flame, but a chaos of molten rock and colliding planets. The early solar system was a place of violence, filled with wandering bodies of all sizes, crashing and coalescing, building and breaking. And in the middle of that maelstrom was Earth, young, soft, spinning quickly through space, unrecognizable to us now. It was during this turbulent time that a body the size of Mars, a planet we call Theia, struck the Earth with such force that both worlds were torn apart. From the debris of that cosmic collision, the moon was born. But it did not form as a perfect sphere, nor did it float quietly into place. It gathered slowly from rings of vapour and stone circling Earth like a shroud. And when it finally came together, the Earth and Moon began their first dance. This dance wasn't choreographed. It was guided by gravity, by the strange push and pull of mass and motion. The Moon orbited much closer then, so close that it would have filled the sky, immense and glowing, casting shadows even in daylight. Earth spun faster, its days lasting only 5 or 6 hours, and the tides were more than waves. They were forces that reshaped coastlines, cracked rock, and pulled at the molten insides of both bodies. The energy of that closeness did not stay still. It moved. It stirred. It set the tone for a relationship that would last billions of years. As the Earth turned and the Moon orbited, each pulled at the other. The Moon raised tides in Earth's oceans, and Earth raised tidal bulges in the Moon's crust. These bulges didn't align perfectly. They dragged slightly behind, and in that lag came energy, torque, that slowed Earth's rotation and pushed the Moon outward. Slowly, gently, the Moon began to drift away. It still does, even now, by about 3.8 centimeters each year. What began as a tight embrace has become a wide, graceful circle, but the dance continues. Always bound, always turning. And while the collision that birthed the Moon was violent, the relationship it formed became one of the gentlest forces in nature. The Moon's gravity helped stabilize Earth's tilt, which gave us regular seasons, predictable climates, and the slow pulse of time that life could grow into. Without the Moon, Earth might wobble like a top, spinning chaotically, tilting toward extremes. Some simulations suggest that life as we know it, complex, organized, seasonal, might not have been possible without the Moon's calming pull. In this way, the Moon did more than circle the Earth. It became part of Earth's ability to support life, not by touching it directly, but by guiding its rhythm. The early Moon was different. It was still hot from formation, its surface covered in magma oceans. Slowly, over millions of years, these cooled and hardened, but the memory of that heat remains in its crust. The dark plains we see from Earth, the Maria, are ancient lava flows frozen in time. They tell of a Moon that was once alive with motion, spilling its insides outward. And Earth would have watched all this unfold, locked in its gravitational dance. One face of the Moon, always turned toward it. This tidal locking, now permanent, means that we only ever see one side of the Moon. The far side, once mysterious, was only revealed with spacecraft. But even now, that hidden face continues to move in rhythm with us, just out of sight, never out of step. There's something deeply poetic in the idea that two worlds, once broken by collision, could settle into harmony. That from destruction came orbit, balance, and eventually light. Because the Moon does not shine on its own, it reflects the sun's light. But in reflecting it, it transforms it, it softens it, it makes it something we can rest beneath, something that soothes instead of burns. In the same way, the Moon took the chaos of its beginning and turned it into motion, pattern, and peace. The same forces that once shattered the Earth's surface now lull us to sleep with tides and shadows. Scientists continue to refine their understanding of this origin story. They study isotopes in lunar rocks, comparing them with Earth's mantle. They simulate collisions on massive computers, adjusting angles and speeds to see what matches the moon we know. And what they've found is astonishing. The moon and Earth are nearly identical in composition. Not completely, but enough to suggest a shared history, a common root. It's as if the moon is not just a companion, but a sibling. Not a separate world, but a piece of us that drifted away, only to stay near forever. And yet, for all we know, much remains uncertain. How much of Theia became the moon? Was there more than one collision? How long did it take for the moon to cool, to lock into orbit, to begin shaping Earth's tides? These questions linger like low tides under moonlight, not fully answered, but clearly real. And maybe that's fitting, because the story of the moon's birth is not a neat one. It is messy, beautiful, and still unfolding. Like all great relationships, it is made of layers, of moments of closeness and distance, of shared motion. The moon we see now, calm, round, distant, holds inside it the memory of its violent beginning, but it does not carry it like a wound. It carries it like a seed. From that chaos came balance. From that impact came orbit. And from that first moment of force came a billion years of rhythm. The Earth and moon, once broken and scattered, now move as one. They do not touch, but they shape each other endlessly through ease, through time, through the quiet, ongoing pull that binds them even now. So when you look up at the moon, know that it was not placed there gently. It arrived in fire and dust, but it stayed. It steadied. It turned a wound into a wheel. And in that wheel, we find the pattern of our nights, the rise and fall of our seas, and the slow, graceful dance that still continues, soft, patient, unbroken. Let us drift deeper now into the quiet revolutions that followed the moon's birth, into the long unfolding of its influence over Earth, and the slow weaving of time and motion into one continuous rhythm. After the great collision that formed the moon, the Earth was never the same. It had lost part of itself, flung outward, and gathered into a companion. But this loss was not a breaking. It became a bond. As the moon cooled and began its orbit, it pulled at Earth's oceans, raised tides, and nudged the young planet into a new kind of stability. Earth's days lengthened slowly, stretching out like a breath learning to last a little longer. From fast 10-hour rotations to the more measured 24 hours we now live by, it was the moon that made the world slow down. And in that slowing, life found the space to grow. It was not just oceans that moved to the moon's pull, it was heat, pressure, even Earth's internal flow. The constant tug of gravity stirred the molten core, affected volcanic rhythms, and helped maintain the balance of the magnetic field that shields us from solar wind. Even in its silence, the moon was shaping Earth's ability to shelter life, and in return, Earth shaped the moon. Our own gravity reached back, pulling the moon into synchronous rotation. Over time, its spin slowed until it matched its orbit, locking one face toward us forever. That face, the side we know so well, is the result of countless tidal interactions, a history told in lava plains, impact basins, and light. As billions of years passed, the Earth and Moon continued their dance. Each orbit, each tide, each eclipse added to the rhythm. Life began, evolved, reached for the surface, and still the moon circled, offering light in the darkness and pulling gently at the seas. Plants began to respond to lunar cycles, some flowers opened or closed in rhythm with the moon. Certain marine creatures synced their spawning with moonlight. Even humans, long before writing, shaped their lives around the moon's phases, It became a calendar, a compass, a symbol. Cultures across the globe looked up and gave it names, built myths around its phases, measured time in moons. There is something profound about this, that an event so chaotic, a planetary collision, could result in something so gentle. The moon, born of fire, became a guide for sleep, a signal for the tides, a companion to dreams. And it did so not through force, but through presence. It did not impose itself. It simply circled, constant, calm, unblinking, and in doing so it helped shape the rhythm of life. The moon's orbit isn't a perfect circle, and neither is Earth's path around the sun. Together, their shifting distances create the lunar and solar eclipses we sometimes witness, a delicate ballet of shadow and alignment. During a total solar eclipse, the moon, though 400 times smaller than the sun, perfectly covers it because it is also 400 times closer. This precise balance feels like an accident of geometry, but it is also a moment of wonder. The sky darkens, stars appear, and the sun's corona flares into view. All because the Earth and Moon still move in rhythm. And the moon's influence goes further still. It stirs not only oceans and tectonics, but also emotions. Humans have long felt a connection between the moon and mood. The word lunacy stems from Luna, the Roman moon goddess, reflecting ancient beliefs that the full moon could stir madness or heighten sensitivity. While science finds little evidence for drastic behavioural shifts, the idea lingers. Maybe it's not irrational. Maybe it's memory, a kind of echo from an older part of ourselves that once relied more directly on moonlight for safety, for time, for belonging. We are shaped not just by what the moon does, but by how it feels. This feeling deepened when humans first stepped onto the moon's surface. In 1969, when Neil Armstrong took that famous step, he did so not just as a visitor to a lifeless rock, but as a returning piece of Earth, a part of the planet touching what was once its own body. That moment was not just a technological triumph, it was an echo of reunion. A human, made from Earth, touching the moon with a foot and a heart. And the dust he disturbed had not moved in millions of years. The footprints remained, untouched by wind or rain, a mark of presence in the silence of time. Those missions brought back more than rocks, they brought back understanding. Lunar samples showed a shared chemical signature with Earth. The highlands, bright with anorthosite, told of a crust that floated atop a magma ocean. The basalt plains spoke of ancient volcanic flows. And beneath that surface, instruments recorded moonquakes, some lasting for long minutes. The moon is not geologically dead. It stirs, shifts, remembers. Its echoes move through stone, reminding us that silence is not stillness, and that even a sleeping body can speak. As we move forward, planning new missions, considering permanent bases, the moon continues to shape us. It teaches us patience, its cycles are slow, reliable. It asks us to look, to notice, to move with rhythm instead of urgency. It shows us what long-term relationships look like. Not perfect, not static, but enduring. The Earth and Moon began in violence, but they settled into orbit, into balance, into a motion that allows for stability, for breath, for life. And maybe that is the moon's greatest lesson, that from rupture can come rhythm, that what begins in fire can lead to calm. The moon is not Earth's wound, it is Earth's companion, a reminder that even separation can result in connection, that even drifting away can become a kind of embrace. The moon pulls at Earth even as it moves farther away. That pull is not control, it is relationship. It is the kind of love that does not cling but stays in motion, the kind that shapes without force, that reflects light without trying to shine on its own. And beneath this grand dance is something even softer, our inner tides. Inside us are rhythms that mimic the world around us. Our hearts beat, our lungs expand and contract, hormones rise and fall, our sleep cycles shift with darkness and light. Some scientists now believe that even gene expression can be influenced by lunar rhythms. In hospitals, studies have shown subtle increases in births around full moons. Other research explores links between lunar phases and human behaviour, though the evidence is often tangled and inconclusive. Still, the patterns are there, quiet and shimmering like light on water. Perhaps it's not about cause and effect in the hard scientific sense, but about harmony. The moon doesn't command, it accompanies, it aligns, and then there is the emotional tide. Ask anyone who has stared up at the moon and felt something shift inside, a memory stirred, a thought softened, a silence made deeper. These aren't just poetic feelings, they are human truths. The moon has always been a companion to solitude. It makes the sky feel less empty. It gives night a face, and in doing so it creates space for reflection. How many poems have been written to the moon? How many lovers have spoken beneath its glow? How many children have looked up and dreamed of touching it, not for conquest, but for connection? When astronauts walked on its surface, they brought back more than rocks. They brought back perspective. Looking at Earth from the moon, they saw not nations or cities, but one fragile, luminous sphere. They saw time not in hours, but in wholeness. They saw tides not just in oceans, but in the rise and fall of human hope. The moon, with all its quiet power, showed them how small we are, and how connected. Its gravity doesn't stop at oceans. It pulls on us too, in ways we can't always explain, in ways that feel more like longing than force. And maybe that's the most important truth of all, that we are part of this rhythm, not separate from it. That the moon does not orbit us in isolation, but in partnership. It keeps our planet stable. It marks our months. It guides our tides. It reflects our light. It watches us change, and yet it does not judge. It simply continues around and around, measuring time not by minutes but by motion. And in its journey we find our own. A path shaped not by speed or volume but by gravity and grace. So when you see the moon again, let yourself be still. Notice the pull beneath your thoughts, feel the tide within your chest. The moon is not far, it is with you in every rhythm that repeats, in every breath that rises and falls, in every quiet longing you can't quite name. It is not watching you, it is moving with you, through time, through tide, through everything you are becoming. Let us move now into the final hush of this story, where the moon's gentle force becomes not just a cosmic curiosity, but a quiet truth about life itself. The moon does not change its rhythm for us. It does not rush or pause depending on our needs. It simply turns, cycles, pulls, and reflects. And yet, without this distant companion, so much of what we know would unravel. Earth would wobble more wildly on its axis, leading to chaotic seasons. Our days would be shorter, our tides weaker, our nights darker. But the moon does not ask for thanks. It does not shine to be seen. It shines because it reflects. And in that reflection, it shows us what it means to offer presence without demand, influence without noise. The moon is a stabilizer. Its presence has helped keep Earth's tilt, currently about 23.5 degrees, relatively constant for billions of years. Without that tilt, we would not have the gentle turn of seasons, the balance of light and dark across the hemispheres. Instead, we might swing violently between extremes, or tilt so far we lose entire ecosystems. The moon's gravitational embrace prevents that chaos. It's a kind of quiet anchoring, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful forces in our lives are not loud or dramatic but consistent. The moon does not correct Earth's path, it simply steadies it. A soft hand on a spinning top keeping the wobble from becoming a fall. And just as it steadies our planet, the moon steadies our minds. There is a reason so many find comfort in watching it. There is a reason we turn our faces to the sky when its glow begins to rise. It connects us to something bigger than ourselves, but not in a way that diminishes us. Rather, it gently includes us. The moon does not look down. It drifts beside. It does not control. It accompanies. This kind of power is rare. The kind that moves oceans but asks nothing in return. The kind that marks time but does not rush it. The kind that changes the world with presence alone. In the ancient world, the moon was more than a marker. It was a being. Some called it a god, others a goddess, still others a celestial messenger. In stories, it took on emotion, purpose, even longing. And though science has given us numbers and measurements, orbits and gravity wells, these stories still hold meaning. Because the moon is not just about what it is about how it feels to live beneath it. Its glow on a river, its shape through bare branches, its rise over silent hills, these are not calculations. They are experiences, and in these moments the moon becomes not just part of the sky, but part of us. You felt it, haven't you? That moment when everything slows down beneath moonlight, when sound feels quieter and thought becomes softer. The moon does not change the world, it changes how we feel the world. It paints our nights in silver and shadow. It gives us a reason to pause, to look up, to remember that motion can be graceful and time can be slow. Even the way the moon orbits is not a circle but an ellipse. At times it is closer, perigee. At others, farther, apogee. And these distances change what we see. A supermoon, large and golden, seems almost close enough to touch. A micromoon, smaller and dimmer, reminds us of distance, but both are part of the same cycle. Both are truths. And that too is a kind of wisdom, that closeness and distance are not opposites, they are rhythms. As the moon slowly drifts away from Earth, pulled by the same laws of physics that keep it close, we are reminded of another truth, that even things that feel permanent are changing. The moon once loomed larger in the sky, the days were shorter, the tides more intense. Over billions of years that has shifted, and still the moon is here, still pulling, still guiding, still reflecting. It is a companion that teaches us how to move through change with grace, to remain steady even as the distances grow, to reflect even as the source of light changes. The moon does not resist time, it moves with it. One day the moon will be too far to cause total solar eclipses, its apparent size will shrink, and the perfect alignment that lets us see the sun's corona will vanish. Future skies will not hold that same spectacle. But they will hold something else. They will still hold the moon, and in that presence, stillness. In that orbit, memory. In that light, continuity. because the moon is not a symbol of what is fixed, it is a symbol of what endures. Not through sameness, but through return. Each month it disappears, and each month it returns. It teaches us to trust the cycle, to know that even when something fades, it can come again. Not identical, but familiar. Perhaps that is why we dream more beneath its light. The moon gives us the quiet space to imagine, to wonder what else orbits in our lives. What pulls us gently but constantly? What shapes us not with force but with rhythm? In a world full of pressure and speed, the moon offers us timing. A slow celestial breath. Inhale, new moon. Exhale, full. A pattern we can feel if we stop long enough to notice. A lullaby written not in words, but in motion. And so the moon controls time, not by dictating minutes, but by reminding us that time is more than what we count. It is what we live. The tides, too, are not just about water. They're about change, about the push and pull of life, about the way we rise and fall. And the moon's pull on us is not just gravity, it is grace. It does not shout, it does not rule, it does not even speak. It simply moves, and in doing so, it moves everything. So the next time you see it, remember, the moon is not just something you look at, it is something you feel, in your bones, in your breath, in the deep waters of your mind. It is the slow beat behind the world's pulse, the quiet answer to the question of how we move through time. The moon does not ask you to follow, it invites you to feel, and in that invitation, something opens, a stillness, a rhythm, a truth. You are not separate from the moon. You are its tide. You are its time. You are its quiet, turning song. Beneath the craters that mark its face like ancient fingerprints, the moon sleeps, does not sleep like a creature with eyes closed in rest, but like a world suspended between breaths. No weather stirs its dust. No rivers cut into its rock. It is a body frozen in time. And yet within its stillness something moves. Something speaks, though not in the language of sound. Deep beneath the powdery grey plains and shattered highlands, the moon echoes. These echoes are not carried through air, for there is none. They move through stone and void, through silence itself. When scientists first planted seismometers on its surface during the Apollo missions, they discovered something unexpected. The moon quakes. It trembles. It sings in a voice so quiet, so slow, that only the most patient ears can hear. The moon's quakes come in four kinds. There are deep quakes, hundreds of kilometers below, possibly stirred by tidal forces from Earth's pull. There are thermal quakes, caused by the dramatic expansion of the surface as sunlight strikes it after a long, frozen lunar night. There are shallow quakes, which can last for 10 minutes or more, vibrating like a slow chime through its fractured crust. And finally there are meteorite impacts, sudden punches from the sky that rattle the moon's skin and ripple inward. These events reveal a truth buried beneath the silence. The moon is not entirely still. It remembers its collisions. It responds softly to each touch. Even when it seems lifeless, it is listening. This idea that the moon listens is more than poetic. The moon's surface is like a giant recording device. With no atmosphere to erase, no rain to wash away, every impact is preserved. The shape of each crater tells a story. The size, the spread of ejecta, the cracks radiating from the centre. They are signatures of ancient encounters. When we map the moon, we are reading an archive not just of space weather, but of time itself. And because the moon has no plate tectonics, these records are rarely disturbed. What lies beneath the craters are not just echoes, but memories. Not in sound, but in shape, density and thermal residue. And so scientists have begun to listen more closely. Using instruments left behind and data from orbiting satellites, they've started to map the moon's interior. They want to know, is it solid or layered? Is its core molten or frozen? The echoes of moonquakes reveal hints. Vibrations travel differently through different materials. Some are absorbed, others reflected. By tracking the speed and path of these quakes, researchers can infer the composition of layers deep below the surface, and what they've found suggests a moon with a partially molten core, a thick mantle, and a crust more cracked than once believed. The moon's echoes are giving us a picture of its insides, not by opening it, but by listening. There's something humbling about this, that a world so silent to our ears has been whispering all along, just in frequencies and rhythms beyond our grasp. The moon, often seen as lifeless and cold, becomes something else entirely when we listen differently. It becomes a being of deep time, still responding to ancient heat, to distant gravity, to fragments of rock that continue to strike its face, and the quakes, while soft, remind us that it is not dead. It is dormant, sleeping, but not without breath. Imagine now standing on the moon during one of these quakes. You wouldn't hear anything. The silence would remain complete. But through your boots, you might feel a subtle tremor, a movement from below. It would be slow, perhaps so faint you'd mistake it for your own heartbeat. But it would not be yours. It would be the moon's. A rhythm set not by biology, but by pressure and stone. A rhythm shaped by millions of years of cooling, cracking, expanding. To listen to such a beat is to step outside of human time. It is to feel a patience that stretches across epochs, and while the moon listens to the universe through impact and motion, we listen to the moon in turn. Radio telescopes study how signals bounce off its surface. Infrared scanners measure its heat as the night shifts into lunar dawn. Laser beams shot from Earth reflect off mirrors left by Apollo astronauts, telling us with perfect precision how far the moon is drifting away. Each reflection is a reply, a conversation held in light across the void. We are not just watching the moon, we are in dialogue with it. Each echo, each bounce of energy, each silent quake becomes a shared rhythm between worlds. The moon is also a kind of reflector for deeper cosmic events. When high-energy particles from distant galaxies strike the lunar surface, they release subtle flashes of energy. These flashes, invisible to the naked eye, are picked up by sensitive detectors. They tell stories of faraway places, violent and bright. In this way, the moon is not just receiving echoes from itself, but from the universe. It is a passive listener, yes, but it is also a silent antenna, a place where signals from beyond can land. Earth, with its thick atmosphere and noisy magnetic field, misses many of these messages, but the moon, bare and still, catches them. Perhaps that is why some scientists dream of placing observatories on the far side of the moon. That distant hemisphere, always turned away from Earth, is free from radio interference, from the chatter of human technology. In that profound silence, telescopes could listen to the earliest echoes of the universe, faint whispers from the time just after the Big Bang. The moon's quiet is not a void. It is a chamber of echoes, a place where even the smallest signal can be heard. And still, beneath all this listening and measuring, there remains a mystery. Why do some quakes last so long? Why do certain parts of the moon's interior behave differently than expected? Why is there still residual heat so deep below? The moon does not answer these questions outright. It offers only more patterns, more signals, more echoes, but in doing so it invites us to listen longer, to wait, to sit in the silence without needing to fill it. It teaches that understanding does not always come in noise. Sometimes it comes in the willingness to hear what lies beneath stillness. So as we explore further, digging deeper into the moon's sleeping layers, we are not disturbing it, we are tuning into it. Like placing a stethoscope against a sleeping chest, not to wake but to understand, we are learning its language not to conquer it, but to feel closer to its presence. And in doing so, we are reminded that silence is not the end of sound. It is the beginning of listening. Let's drift deeper beneath the moon's sleeping skin, where echoes travel not as noise but as pulses through ancient stone. These echoes are not the kind we know on Earth, carried by air or bouncing off canyon walls. On the moon, echoes move differently, slowly, clearly, and with a strange persistence. When a tremor begins, it doesn't stop quickly. The moon does not absorb vibrations the way Earth does. Its dry, fractured crust allows these movements to linger. A shallow moon quake can ring for up to 10 minutes. Imagine a bell struck once that continues to hum long after the initial impact. Not loud, not painful, just enduring. This endurance reveals much about the moon's body, that it is brittle, layered and hollowed with tiny fractures. It's as though the moon, instead of bleeding sound into the air, holds it close, letting it echo within. Scientists have called the moon seismically active, but it's a different kind of activity than Earth's. There are no tectonic plates sliding against each other, no molten magma churning close to the surface. Instead, the moon's activity is quieter, slower, born of ancient heat and distant gravity. Each tremor is like the sigh of a sleeping giant, gentle, long and revealing. The moon, cooling slowly over billions of years, continues to crack and shift deep below. These movements create stress. That stress builds up until it releases, not in explosive fury, but in a calm vibration through silence. And through that vibration we listen, tracing the shape of a whirl from the inside out. Some of the moon's most haunting echoes come from the aftermath of impacts. When a meteor strikes, it sends shockwaves through the crust. These waves ripple outward and downward, hitting denser material, bouncing back. Scientists have studied these reflections to learn about the moon's core. One such impact, the intentional crash of a spent Apollo rocket stage, caused a series of tremors that rang across the surface. Instruments captured the movement. It was as if the moon, struck in just the right way, spoke, not with words but with a pattern, a tone, a story told in vibration alone. And yet these stories are delicate, they require patience. To truly listen to the moon, one must slow down. On Earth, sound is immediate, spoken and heard in an instant. But on the moon, understanding builds over hours, days, even years. Scientists must wait for the right conditions, for the right sensors, for the right quake. They must tune themselves to the rhythm of something vastly older than any human machine. and in doing so they learn not just about the moon, but about time itself. Time on the moon is different, not in speed, but in feeling. Without weather, without seasons, without rushing clouds, everything stretches. A footprint lasts forever. A tremor can take minutes to fade. A single vibration can become a chapter. This slow time allows us to see patterns we might otherwise miss. For instance, some moonquakes occur with such regularity that they almost seem scheduled. Every 27 days, as the moon reaches a particular point in its orbit, deep quakes stir below. These are tidal quakes caused by the constant pull of Earth's gravity. The moon, though solid, is not immune to flexing. It stretches and contracts ever so slightly. This stretching creates stress, and stress becomes motion, and that motion becomes an echo. The moon responds to Earth like a partner in a dance, not with immediate steps, but with long gliding moves. It is a choreography of stone and force repeated again and again. But this dance is not only between Earth and Moon. The Sun plays its part too. As sunlight returns to the Moon's surface after the long night, each lunar night lasting about 14 Earth days, the rocks heat up quickly. The extreme temperature change causes expansion. That expansion creates cracks. Cracks become creaks, and those creaks become quakes. These thermal quakes do not feel violent. They are more like settling noises, the moon stretching after a long sleep. But again, the pattern is there. Each dawn brings its own tiny symphony. Each change in light sets off another whisper. So when you look up, know this: the moon is not just orbiting, it is remembering. Each turn around the Earth is an echo of that first impact, that first scattering of stone and fire. And in its silence, in its soft glow, in the tides it stirs and the dreams it holds, it continues to dance. Not for us, but with us. Always just far enough to remind us we are separate. Always just close enough to remind us we are connected. Now let us move gently into the final arc of this long and ancient dance, the place where Earth and Moon continue their rhythm not out of necessity but out of quiet grace. Billions of years have passed since that first collision, yet the effects are still unfolding. Each tide that laps at a shore, each eclipse that darkens the sky, each slow drift of the moon farther into space, all of it began with a moment of impact, and all of it continues as a kind of remembrance. The moon has become more than a celestial object. It is a presence in our lives, a reflection of balance and motion, a soft silver partner to Earth's ever-turning story. Its orbit, though expanding, remains loyal. Its pull, though gentle, remains constant. It moves away and still moves with us. It reflects light and still reflects us. Over time, the moon's outward drift has changed the way we see the sky. In the distant past, eclipses were more frequent and more complete. The moon appeared larger, more commanding, closer to the Earth's face. Now, though still awe-inspiring, it recedes little by little. In hundreds of millions of years, total solar eclipses may become a thing of the past, as the moon will appear too small to fully cover the sun. That unique alignment, that perfect moment of celestial geometry will vanish. But the moon will still be there. Its cycle will remain. It will still orbit, still mark months, still pull at oceans and minds alike. The dance continues, even as the steps change. And this dance has inspired more than science. It has given rise to stories, rituals, music. Poets have written sonnets to the moon. Lovers have walked by its glow. children have reached toward it with small hands and wide eyes. Artists have painted its phases, tried to capture its silence in shape and colour. The moon became a mirror not only for the sun's light, but for the human imagination. We placed meaning in its phases, built symbols from its cycles. A crescent became a beginning, a full moon, a culmination, a waning sliver, a release. These were not scientific measurements, but emotional truths lived through centuries of moonlit nights. The moon in return has given us no words, no explanations. It has offered only its presence. It does not blink or waver. It does not interrupt. It reflects, and in that reflection, it becomes something more than itself. That is what makes its story so enduring. It is not a tale of domination or control. It is a story of influence, of patience, of subtle power. It is the kind of relationship that does not shout, but sustains. Earth spins, the moon orbits, and between them flows a thread of gravity, of time, of quiet grace. A thread that stretches, but never breaks. We live now in a world filled with noise, speed, urgency. But above us the moon remains slow. It rises not because we ask it to, but because it follows the pattern it was given. A pattern born from fire, from chaos, from impact. And yet what we receive is peace, or we do not see the scars of its creation, we see its calm. We do not feel the violence of its beginning, we feel its rhythm. That transformation from trauma to harmony is what gives the Earth-Moon relationship its quiet majesty. It shows us that movement can bring stability, that separation can deepen connection, that silence can echo with meaning. The moon's influence continues in other ways. It helps regulate Earth's axial tilt, reducing wild swings in climate. Its reflected light makes the night less lonely. Its orbit gives our calendars structure, and its tides stir not just oceans but life itself. Even now animals respond to its pull, trees adjust their growth, certain insects navigate by its light, and deep within human cells, circadian rhythms tick in quiet sympathy. We are, in ways both large and small, moonlit creatures, not just physically but emotionally. The moon doesn't just shape our planet, it shapes our inner landscapes. It is part of our emotional weather. And so we dream of returning, not to conquer, but to live alongside. Plans are in place to build bases, to extract resources, to learn how to survive beyond Earth. But the moon is not a tool, it is a presence, a neighbour, a memory of who we were and a vision of what we might become. If we step gently, we may find not just technology, but reverence. We may find a new kind of listening, one shaped not by what we can take, but by what we can learn. The moon does not resist our presence, but it also does not change for us. Its dust is still sharp, its silence still vast. It will hold our footprints just as it has held every crater. It remembers. And in that memory lies a comfort, that the Earth is not spinning alone, that our nights are not entirely dark, that the chaos of beginnings can lead to the grace of orbit. The moon's journey is not linear. It circles, it loops, it returns, and in doing so it teaches us that time is not always a forward march. Sometimes it is the turning, a revisiting, a quiet spiraling into understanding. The moon does not promise direction, it offers rhythm, and in that rhythm we find peace. So let the moon be more than a symbol, let it be a teacher of patience, of presence, of connection without control. Let it remind you that even in distance there can be closeness, that even in reflection there is light, that what began in fire can end in calm. The moon does not explain itself. It does not prove its worth. It simply moves. And in moving, it transforms everything it touches, including Earth, including you. So look up and remember the dance, the first one, the long one, the one that never stopped. Earth and moon bound by a silent thread, still turning, still listening, still sharing their motion with the sky.